Jeff Patterson's gut feeling was right. Rick Tocchet moving on from the Vancouver Canucks. My name is Dave Quadrelli. I'm going to be joined by Harman Dayal and Patrick Johnston in what might go down as the most touch and go episode in Canucks Convo history. Of course, Canucks Conversation is brought to you in part by Bet365. So for those of you that watched the live show, you probably saw earlier today that, hey, Victor Mancini was going to join us on today's show. We're moving that to Friday. Victor Mancini is going to join us. We're very excited about that. But just with the news breaking shortly before the show actually was ready to go, about a little over an hour more than before the show was supposed to start, we find out that Rick Tocchet will not return as head coach. So Sportsnet's Elliot Friedman originally reporting this, and the Canucks confirming it with a press release about 30 minutes after. Rick Tocchet has decided not to return as head coach for the upcoming season. As I said, I'm going to be joined by Harman. I'm going to be joined by Patrick Johnston as well. Both of those guys are on their way down to the rink for a 3 p.m. press conference with Jim Rutherford. So just when you thought we were a little short on content, nope. We're going to be breaking down Jim Rutherford's press conference on tomorrow's episode of Canucks Conversation. But before we get to the news of the day about Tocchet and continue to break this down, I want to hear from you. I want to hear from you, the listeners, in our YouTube live chat. And if you want to make sure your question or comment gets on the show, hit us with a super chat. Our super chat charity partner this season is the BC Mental Health Foundation. All of our proceeds from our super chats go to them, and they are changing the face of mental health and addiction by supporting breakthroughs in care, public understanding, research, and knowledge exchange. So we got one already. This one from Noah. He said, what happened to this team within a year? It's such an interesting thing to dissect because it feels like there's a lot of angles. We're going to talk practice facility. You know we are, because it was reported by Friedman that was a sticking point in conversations. I kind of went in on it a day or two ago as well, talking about the practice facility and how it's been 15 years. And at some point, you're either serious about it or you're not serious about it. And obviously the Canucks are closer to the latter, it would seem, when it comes to getting a practice facility built. And that was a frustration of Rick Tocchet, at least reportedly. We haven't heard from Tocchet himself, aside from what he said in the statement, which we're going to get to in just a sec. Questions are rolling in. A lot of people tuning in right now. Usually it's not just me, folks. Usually I have Harman with me, and we're going to be joined by Patrick Johnston. Both of those gentlemen are about 10 minutes away, so going to be a bit of time. But hey, I got enough people in the chat to go solo a bit here, and the feedback is pouring in on our YouTube chat right now. And this is an interesting one. This is a really interesting one because it's one question that I've started to think about as well. This one from Miss L, who said, what about Adam Foote and Sergei Gonchar? Now, at his year-end press conference, I believe it was Jim Rutherford that hinted at the idea that there wasn't going to be any more part-time staff on the coaching staff. And I think that was directed at Sergei Gonchar. I don't think Sergei Gonchar is coming back next season. I'm not 100% sure about that, but the sense I get is that Gonchar is not coming back and that he really wasn't all that involved this season. The big guy for me is Adam Foote. One aspect of the whole Tocchet thing that we're going to talk about is Quinn Hughes really liking Rick Tocchet. There was the post-game interview on ESPN that Quinn Hughes did where he said that Adam Foote was one of the best coaches he's ever had. And he's obviously said the same thing about Rick Tocchet as well. But make no mistake about it, like, Adam Foote is someone that Quinn Hughes really likes. He's obviously a coach that Tyler Myers kind of revamped his career under. That's an interesting one for me because you're going to look at Adam Foote and, like, when Rick Tocchet goes somewhere, and not to be the bearer of bad news, but when he goes somewhere, guess what? He's going to be able to pick his own coaches. He's going to be able to bring assistant coaches with him. And if you've seen any Rick Tocchet interview, you know how highly he thinks of Adam Foote. So I don't know the terms of Adam Foote's contract with the Canucks. I would imagine it lines up with Tocchet's, but I don't know that for sure. If I were a betting man, I would say that Adam Foote likely ends up wherever Rick Tocchet goes, that Rick Tocchet would bring Adam Foote in with him. Again, that's a guy that Tocchet handpicked to come coach in Vancouver with him. There was nothing along the way that would make you think that Tocchet didn't love working with Adam Foote. I would assume, and again, I'm assuming here, that Adam Foote is on his way with Rick Tocchet, wherever Rick Tocchet goes. And we don't know where that's going to be just yet. in case you're just joining us, our super chats is a way to make sure that your comments get on the show. So here's one. This is one from Tyler from the watch party. Good to see you, Tyler. Our watch parties over at Greta. He said, absolutely shocked and gutted by this news. And he said the same thing. What does this mean for Foote? And what does it mean for Gonchar? I got to say, my gut reaction is with Adam Foote, that Rick Tocchet is going to bring Adam Foote with him. Again, I don't know the specifics of his contract. There could be something that says Adam Foote staying in Vancouver. We don't know just yet. This one from Richard Hughes. Oh, I knew this was coming in. Thank you for the super chat. He said, trade Hughes at the draft. Start the rebuild now. Now, that might sound a little bit crazy. It might, but I've already had a few people at least plant the seed for me to say, well, the closer you get to July 1st, 2026, the more leverage you lose. I am not ready. I'm not mentally ready. I'm not emotionally ready to start having conversations about trading Quinn Hughes. I understand why it's being brought up. I get it. We wrote something today over at Canucks Army about the idea of what would the Devils have to give up to acquire Quinn Hughes from the Canucks. I get it. I'm not ready for it. I'm just personally not ready for it. Maybe I'll be ready next week to have the conversation. I'm not ready to have any conversation about trading Quinn Hughes. I am still very firmly on turn this around, get Quinn Hughes to stay with a great offseason and a great season ahead. You can still trade him next year. If you get to July 1st, 2020, if you get to July 1st, 2026, and he says, I don't want to sign long-term, then you make the trade, you get what you can, and it'll still be a good return. Granted, maybe not as great as if you put him on the market right now, but I don't think that return is worth it enough to justify making that trade this offseason. I don't want to see it. I don't want to see a Quinn Hughes trade, mostly because I'm selfish and want to see Quinn Hughes in a Vancouver Canucks uniform for as long as possible. Okay, lots of feedback going in. Okay, I gotta say, there's a person in our chat named Jay, okay, and he has been put in timeout before for saying fire Tocchet way too much, just an obscene amount of fire Tocchet coming from Jay, and he said the mission's been completed, Tocchet's been fired. Not quite, but you did get your wish. Rick Tocchet is no longer the head coach of the Vancouver Canucks, and for those of you who are just joining us, Rick Tocchet announcing that he is leaving the Canucks. He's ending his tenure. Again, he's ending it on his terms. The team was very vocal and very open about the fact that they wanted him back. Jim Rutherford talked about that at his year-end press conference, and the decision's been made by Tocchet. He is not coming back. I should have mentioned at the top, our technical producer is Jacob Lazar, and I am going to pull up this statement. This is a statement from Rick Tocchet and Jim Rutherford. Let's start with Rutherford's portion of it. Jacob keeps putting it on the screen, so I better get to it. So this was what Rutherford had to say in a statement. And again, Rutherford is going to speak at 3 p.m. We're going to have live coverage of that. Or I shouldn't say live coverage, excuse me. If you want to watch it live, there's different channels to do that. We're going to be covering it, breaking it down right away over at CanucksArmy.com. So make sure you're locked and loaded there. There's already a lot of content up at CanucksArmy.com as well right now. This is what Jim Rutherford had to say in the statement. He said, after a very long and thorough process, unfortunately, Rick has decided to leave the Vancouver Canucks. This is very disappointing news, but we respect Rick's decision to move on to a new chapter in his hockey career. We did everything in our power to keep him, but at the end of the day, Rick felt he needed a change. He is a good friend, a good coach, and we can't thank him enough for all he did for our organization. Talk is a stand-up guy, and we wish him nothing but the best moving forward. Now, here's what Rick Tocchet had to say in his statement. I'm choosing to move on from the Vancouver Canucks. Family is a priority, and with my contract lapsing, this becomes the opportune time. While I don't know where I'm headed or exactly how this will play out for me over the near term, I feel like this is the right time for me to explore other opportunities in and around hockey. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the entire Vancouver Canucks organization, starting with Francesco and Luigi Aquilini, Jim Rutherford, and Patrick Alvin. It's been a pleasure and great learning experience to work with you all. To the players, thank you. Regardless of our results, I always felt your heart and effort was there. I was honored to be your coach. To the coaching staff and support staff, you guys are first class and you made it easy and enjoyable to come to work every day. Thank you for everything you give to help make the team a success. To the media, now let's really focus on this one. I appreciate your work and your diligence, your easy and your difficult questions. You guys do a great job. Thank you. And to the Canucks fans, This one's important too. Your infectious spirit, loyal commitment, and will to win kept me and the entire team on our toes. I appreciate how you have made yourselves a driving force in the Canucks community. I've enjoyed my time here, and I wish everyone the best. I'm asking this for the people in the chat because it's mostly people that are disappointed, and we'll get to the poll question in just a second. I ask you this. This is just a question I'm posing to people in the chat. How do you feel about that? How do you feel about that statement? How do you feel about the fact that Rick Tocchet's leaving? How do you feel about his tenure as a whole? And let's not forget, when Rick Tocchet came here, you think this team's in shambles now. January 2023, things were bad. Things were bad. Things were bad in the end of the Bruce Boudreau era of Canucks hockey. It was a short one, but it was still very, very bad. He came at a bad time. He talked about grade school. He talked about teaching this team the basics on defense. He did that. The next season, they go on to win the Pacific Division. Been a long time since. Actually, it never happened before. They've won their division, but it was the first time since they became members of the Pacific Division that they won the Pacific Division. So he did that in his first full year as head coach. He wins the Jack Adams. He follows it up this year with a year that was just mired in disappointment for reasons beyond his control, but also some reasons in his control. And we talked about that all season long, that Rick Tocchet was certainly not absolved of criticism when it came to what happened to the Canucks this season. That being said, I think Jim Rutherford put it best at his year-end press conference when he came out and said, I think Rick did an even better job this year than he did the year before, and had nothing but good things to say about the job that Rick Tocchet did this year with the Canucks. I'd like to see, and people are pointing out, I've got the bar cart beside me because I'm, of course, recording this in my kitchen as I'm working on the home studio. That's getting built soon. I know there's a lot of new people who probably think this is my everyday setup. It's not. This is a new kitchen, just moved. Got to build a new studio. Working on it right now. People pointing out that I've got what do I have here? I got some Jack Daniels Tennessee Fire over my shoulder, but no, I won't be doing a shot of that on air. I won't be doing that. But people really, really want me to. I don't think I'm going to. I might though. We'll see. $50 super chat. $50 super chat. If we get $50 to the BC Mental Health Foundation, I might think about it. But it's also 2:15 in the afternoon. Back to the matter at hand. Let's get to our poll question, and then we're going to bring in Patrick Johnston, who beat Harman Dayal to the punch. Let's get to our poll question, which is brought to you by Pacific Toyota dealers who want to tell you about the 100% electric Toyota BZ4X, an SUV packed with plenty of space. The BZ4X can handle any terrain and can take you from the city to the slopes. It's backed by the peace of mind that comes with knowing you're driving a Toyota. And if you're driving a BZ4X, you get access to HOV lanes even if you're driving alone. When you choose the BZ4X, you can get up to $6,500 in rebates and incentives. And now you can finance a 2025 BZ4X from 0.99% APR for 36 months. Visit shoptoyota.ca or your local Pacific Toyota dealer today. Okay, new poll question. We had one before, and really we had an episode that was going to have Victor Mancini. It was going to have Tom Willander. Well, Tom Willander wasn't going to be on the show, but we were going to talk about Tom Willander. We're pushing that to Friday. We might get some conversation about Willander in tomorrow, but Mancini is on Friday. If you're just joining us, Victor Mancini, Canucks defenseman, joining the show on Friday. But our poll question today, how do you feel about Rick Tocchet reportedly walking away as Canucks head coach? And obviously, this was written before the team confirmed it themselves. Happy or disappointed? These were the two options I gave. 82.6% say they are disappointed. 17.4% say they are happy. And ultimately, I think that is basically reflected with what we're seeing in the YouTube live chat as well. There's a few people really happy about it. There's others that are disappointed because it does mean a few different things. It's not as simple as, oh, I'm disappointed because a great coach is leaving. I'm disappointed because a Jack Adams winner is leaving. It has some ramifications. And to help us break down those ramifications, let's bring in Patrick Johnston of The Province, who's brought to you by our friends over at Greta. A great spot to watch all playoff games. There's tons going on right now. You got baseball games, whatever you want. Greta's a great spot to be. It's the home of our electric watch parties. They've got the arcade. They've got the bar. And of course, they've got the street food menu. Make sure you try that smash burger and you're going to have a great time. 50 West Cordova Street is the address. Okay. Patrick Johnston joins us now. PJ, thanks so much for taking the time. I know it's been very touch and go for you as well as you head on down to Rogers Arena. Just your initial reaction to the news of the day that Rick Tocchet is walking away from the Vancouver Canucks.
First of all, David, I want to recognize how close I am to your ancestral home. I'm just west of Wellington on Francis. So, it's like around the corner from what I understand. Beautiful spot, great place. I can see why you're such an excellent young man. Rick Tocchet, man, let's be selfish here. First of all, what a loss for the media. That's the number one. No, seriously. No, this is the fourth coach. They 4 coaches in 4 years. Like, what are we doing here, man? Like, it's just absolute bananas what's happened to this organization. There used to be places of stability, used to be a place that people wanted to go. And now we're sitting at a place that people keep leaving, no matter what level they're at. I mean, I wrote about this a while back, but, you can talk about behind the scenes. Senior VP of marketing is gone. Like, there's all kinds of people that leave this place. Now your head coach is leaving. You're affable. Like, listen, I get that some people were frustrated how the team performed this year. They blame the coach. But let's be clear. This was a guy that was like a positive for this organization. A guy that connected with his players. Quinn Hughes, the best coach I've ever had. Like, the president wanted to keep him. They couldn't get it done. So what does that tell you? I mean, I was talking to J Pat's wife, who's helping her out with CTV, and she put it, like, who? And I said, well, who's going to come here? Like, these coaches all talk to each other. Coaches don't leave teams. They don't. And Rick Tocchet's left. What a mess.
You and I love talking about practice facilities. It was reported that was a hang-up for Rick Tocchet, that there was no practice facility, and that really there's no plan, and it's been 15 years of this, as you astutely wrote last week. I really liked that article. If people haven't checked it out, province.com, just search 15 years practice facility Patrick Johnston, put that in Google, you'll find the article. It has been 15 years, PJ, and the thing I said yesterday was, at some point you're either serious about it or you're not serious, and the Canucks are certainly on the latter of that.
If you're serious about it, you're willing to put the money down. Right? Like, you don't go around talking to all these people and struggle to make a deal. These owners built stuff, right? They know. It's not like they don't know how to make a deal. It's pretty clear what's going on here, and there is one consistent factor, and it's the Canucks can't seem to make a deal with anybody. So why is that? But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm sure we'll hear from, and we've heard a little bit from Rick Tocchet, but I'm sure we'll talk to Rick Tocchet and we'll hear more, and he'll say what he wants to say. But listen. If you're the head coach and you're looking at the situation and you're looking at JT Miller's gone, you're looking at a star player who's making a huge salary, who's just coming off an awful year and is potentially locked in forever, and you have a chance to sit back and think, okay, what do I really want to do here? What are the circumstances? I mean, it just speaks so many volumes. Whether the practice facility was the thing, I don't think I have a hard time imagining it is the thing.
For sure.
But it's certainly possible that it's a thing, right? It's not a great look, and it comes back to, like I said off the top, like, this is 4 coaches. This is a team that used to have stability. It doesn't anymore. And when you don't have any stability, you start wondering why. It starts becoming, once it becomes a pattern, like, there's a pattern here now, right? And David, as I love saying you, it's year 4. It's year 4, buddy. Stuff goes wrong in year 4, and here we are.
Things happen in year 4. We got a super chat here. This one's from Tyler again. He said, really curious to know what the actual reason for him leaving is, whether or not it's the practice facility, money, or contract term. PJ, is it fair to say that it's probably a whole bunch of things that just mesh into one? You just said it. Like, you've got a superstar player, supposedly superstar player, that just is coming off an awful year, didn't do much at his year-end media avail to make you think, oh, well, he's going to turn it around next year. And obviously we've talked about that quite a bit. But, like, in your mind, what did this just come down to for Tocchet?
I think he just said it.
Family. He cites family in the statement.
I don't know what that's about, because I mean, his son lives in Seattle. I know he's got I believe he's a girlfriend in Vegas. But I mean, I don't know. Family's important. Life conditions. I mean, I don't know. That stood out to me, but as well. But I come back to just the sort of the workplace situation, and what was all there, and this was an immensely stressful year. Right. Those of us who go to the rink often, we're able to build a bit of a relationship with him. We talk to him after the cameras turned off, and like, as I said, he's a hockey evangelist. He loved talking hockey, but this year was really, really, really difficult. Mm-hmm. And if he has to sit back and look and say, listen, what are the chances it's a repeat of that? Like, he can't guarantee that PD's going to be the player he should be. Like, I think he'll be closer to the player he should be, but he can't guarantee he will be. And what happens with Quinn Hughes? If you talk to Quinn, Quinn says, well, I don't know. Like, are you really going to lock yourself in? And he's 62, right? Like it's not like he's got like tons of coaching life ahead of him. And if he wants to win a championship, I think realistically, it's not happening here in the next couple of years, right? It's somewhere down the road. So you're looking at a situation where you've got a coach that looks around. He's a popular guy. He's got connections around the league. He can look at all the openings that are out there. Some of them are actually quite interesting. But you're also talking about a situation where he knows what's here and he knows what isn't here. And as much as it might be beautiful, and I'm standing under a cherry blossom tree today, and beautiful spring, that's not enough. You have to be happy where you're going to work. And clearly, he looked at the situation and said, "I'm just not going to be happy here."
The Quinn Hughes angle, I think that's something that everybody's immediately thinking about is what does this mean for Quinn Hughes? We've already had some trade Quinn at the draft, start the rebuild now. Where are you when it comes to Quinn Hughes discourse?
Oh, I mean, that's just like all of it. I mean, it's a dark future, man. Like no matter where we're at, because like I said, what coach is going to come here? Like you're going to be the fourth coach in 4 years. You're going to be at Rick Tocchet couldn't make it work. Like what's going on? Quinn Hughes might be gone. Like if you're Quinn Hughes, you're sitting back going, man, Jim Rutherford, I actually gave him credit. I still give him credit. Speaking honestly about that last week, they know it's a huge, huge, huge challenge for them. It's tough, man. It's a bleak. I hate to be it. I'm glad I'm standing in the sunshine right now because it's bleak. Everything I think about right now is bleak.
Does it feel like Manny Malhotra is probably the guy?
I mean, that's an easy one, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what I would think. I like Manny Malhotra a lot.
Yeah, but he's had 1 year. He's been a head coach for 1 year.
Sure.
So I don't know.
You say,
but yeah,
who's going to come here?
Yeah, like listen, he did some really impressive stuff. I mean, that roster hasn't been always quality every night, but they've pulled it off. They're having a good run out there. They're doing something right. So that's a good sign. And an often underpowered lineup, and they still did stuff, especially coming down the stretch. Think about all the players that were in Vancouver and were now. Like Manny's done a good job. There's absolutely no doubt about that.
Yeah.
He knows the NHL. I mean, like when he left the Canucks ahead of the 2020-21 season, and went to Toronto, like that, he was glue. Like it was clear that was going to be a tough guy to replace on that coaching staff. He is a glue kind of coach, so that stands him in good stead. But right now, the Canucks. I mean, whether you like Rick Tocchet or not, I come back to that point I've said how many times now. This is going to be the fourth coach in 4 years. Like that's just for every player that's been around for any amount of time. If you're Connor Garland, you're Elias Pettersson, right? Like that's just chaos. And what about these young defensemen? Like it's all just like what's going on here? No point.
Quickly, I had the theory that Adam Foote's probably just going wherever Rick Tocchet goes. Like I'm assuming. Rick Tocchet.
I have no doubt about that. Oh yeah. No. Those two have that. Like I think Adam Foote obviously came in with very little experience. His 1 year coaching was terrible in junior, but certainly came a long way last year. I wrote that story about how far he come just in a few months. And bright guy. He had experience coaching as a development coach. He'd been around. He obviously played the game at a very high level. Not every person that plays the game at a high level turns out to be a good coach, but there were clearly nuances to the game that he was picking up on. And I think Rick Tocchet found a really positive sort of partnership there. A guy that was really dialed into how he saw the game. A coach that he needed to hire someone in the moment. There's never anybody available mid-season, but he found him. And yeah, I think it's fair to assume that those two will go off together.
Okay, PJ, Harman's been sitting there. I didn't realize that I was in another tab. But the final question I have, and I'm going to ask Harman the same one, but the final one I have for you, PJ, is just like, what are you expecting to hear from Jim Rutherford in about 35 minutes time?
Yeah. What am I expecting?
Yeah.
I really don't know. I mean, he's going to put the angle like he said. We did everything we could to keep him. And I'm curious to hear what he says, why that wasn't enough, And like Jim Rutherford's been around the block. Like, this guy knows what's up. He's won Stanley Cups. He's had a proven pattern of success. I don't know when we say that everything started going badly. I mean, do we go all the way back to last summer when they didn't nail any of the guys they wanted to keep? I don't know. But the last, 6-8 months have been absolutely terrible for this organization. And I want to know what he thinks he's going to be able to do going forward. I want to know how much, like, I don't, he's not a guy that's going to want to walk away from the project, but I want to know how much longer he's going to stick with this project, because you look around and there's not a lot of things to say are going well right now.
Thanks for taking the time, PJ. Appreciate you.
Have a good show.
All right, there he is, Patrick Johnston. We now bring in Harman Dayal, the regular co-host of this show, who I didn't realize was sitting patiently in the Rogers Arena press box as he gets ready to speak to Jim Rutherford. Harm, obviously there's a lot to get to. I've covered a lot of it. I think I did a pretty decent job hosting solo. I'm not going to lie. And I had the chat with me. We had a good time. But Harman, I ask you this. You're there to talk to Jim Rutherford. Same question as PJ. Like, what are you expecting to hear from Jim Rutherford today?
Similar to PJ, I expect a big part of the narrative from Rutherford is going to be that they did everything in their power. And then beyond that, I am really curious to know from Rutherford why he believes they weren't able to ultimately keep Tocchet. I imagine there are factors beyond money. Is that related to the practice facility, Quinn's future? And I'm sure there are factors that Rutherford may not be totally forthcoming about. But that's really what I want to know is why were they ultimately not able to keep their guy? Because Rutherford gave as glowing an endorsement of Rick Tocchet as he could have during last week's end-of-year availabilities. Straight up saying, in his mind, Tocchet had done as good a job of coaching the Canucks this season as he had last year when he was Coach of the Year one Jack Adams. Now, you may not agree with that assessment. I think we can all look at the results this season and go, Tocchet wasn't totally blameless in the situation, but that shows you just how highly this management group viewed him. We know Quinn Hughes really wanted him back as well. So to have a head coach in that position essentially say, no thanks, it's not great for the organization. And ultimately, I'm going to be looking for answers and insight as to why.
When you heard the news today, what was your first reaction?
Well, whether you liked Tocchet as a head coach or not, to me, it's not a good look on the organization that Tocchet basically looked at the state of the organization and said, thanks, but no thanks. We know how bad Rutherford wanted him back. Quinn Hughes gave him a huge endorsement as well. And it's a sign, whether it's related to the practice facility, whether it's related to Tocchet being unsure about is Quinn staying long-term, whether it's about Tocchet not believing in Pettersson as a franchise forward and just overall not being fully convinced that this team can get back to being a contender next year. There was clearly a hang-up somewhere. And to me, it's not so much about, oh, Rick Tocchet is this elite, irreplaceable coach and they're not going to be able to find anyone as good as him. It's more the fact that he's willingly walking away is a sign to me that he doesn't fully believe in the organization's short to medium term vision and future. And the way I look at it is first-class organizations that are run well, that are run in a stable manner, they're usually able to sell people, quality people that they want to keep on their vision. Mm-hmm. The fact that for whatever reason the Canucks couldn't sell Tocchet on the vision of returning as Canucks coach for the foreseeable future, that tells me that there are cracks somewhere.
And PJ was just talking about the business side of it too. Losing people over the years. Like there's just been a ton of turnover on the business side as well. And that wasn't always the case. That certainly wasn't always the case with this team. And we know that. So, I mean, okay. I say we just move to anyone else because I've covered a lot of ground in 30 minutes. I know you've only been here for 5 minutes, but I was explaining to people, Harm, Victor Mancini was going to join the show. He's going to be with us on Friday now. So Victor Mancini, Friday, 2:05, right here, Canucks Arm YouTube channel, Canucks Conversation podcast, wherever you get your podcasts, we're available. Victor Mancini is going to be with us. It's going to be a great episode. But tomorrow's show, like we were thinking, oh, maybe we'll go down to 4 shows this week. I don't think we have any time to do that. I think we got to keep going here. So tomorrow's show, we're probably looking at breaking down a Jim Rutherford press conference. And until that happens, there's not much more that we can do, that we can say. I was going to ask you about replacements for Rick Tocchet. We broke down some head coaching vacancies around the league. Is it crazy to say that it feels like there's more vacancies than there is coaches that we can just name to fill those jobs?
Yeah, there aren't a lot of appealing options if we're being totally honest. I mean, Mike Sullivan would obviously be the dream hire, but every team with a vacancy wants Mike Sullivan, not to mention a lot of teams. Do you remember when the Blues had Drew Bannister? He'd barely been at the helm as a full-time head coach for any time at all after Craig Berube left. And even though Bannister probably deserved a longer leash, once Jim Montgomery got fired in Boston, they immediately fired Bannister. And the rationale wasn't, well, it's not that Bannister's done that poorly of a job in St. Louis. It was that when a head coach of Montgomery's quality becomes available, teams will move pieces around to make it work and try and land that type of a head coach. So for Mike Sullivan, it's not just the current head coach vacancies and those teams that are going to have interest in him. There are going to be other teams that already have a head coach that would presumably be willing to fire their head coach to bring in a head coach of Sullivan's esteem, of his caliber. So from that perspective, as much as you would want to see him in Vancouver, he's going to be such a competitive name. You're going to have to pay him as the highest head coach in the NHL. Are the Canucks willing to go to that territory? Obviously, it helps that Rutherford and Sullivan have a history that's going to give the Canucks a hand, but it ultimately feels like a long shot. And when you go beyond that, you get to the Peter Laviolettes and Gerard Gallants and a lot of names that have been recycled in the NHL many, many times before. Jay Woodcroft. There just aren't a lot of options that stand out as, wow, that's amazing.
I gotta say, as you throw out these names, I know Manny Malhotra's had 1 year of AHL coaching experience. I'm team Manny. Just Manny. Someone else throw out the idea, Manny, and then promote the Twins. They killed penalties once, right? Get both of them on the staff. Get them on the bench with Manny. Bring back Alex Burrows. Just make it 2011 again. That should be the new motto. Is just make it 2011 again somehow. Okay. So yeah, again, not great options out there upon first glance, but this is a tweet from Rick Tocchet came moments ago. I want to read it. He said, "Been told the Canucks made Rick Tocchet a terrific offer, very solid, and one that would be considered a top offer around the league. Tocchet just felt it was time for a change." So an interesting report there from Dollywall. But and again, I want to dissect everything. Tocchet's going to speak. We know Rick Tocchet. Like, he's not going to just leave it at a statement, take his next job, and be done. Like, Tocchet's going to speak. Hell, I'd love to have him on this show. I think we should throw in the ask to get Rick Tocchet on this show. Tocchet's going to speak, so I'm not even going to bother trying to decipher everything. I want to hear it right from him, and we're going to. That's the beauty of it. Rick Tocchet is going to speak at some point. I'm sure he is. When he's ready, he's going to speak. But one interesting thing, you brought it up yesterday. We were talking about where's Mike Sullivan going to go? Where is Rick Tocchet going to go? And one thing you brought up yesterday was the Vegas Golden Knights with Bruce Cassidy. And like, oh, that's a long shot, but Vegas does like to strike early and fast with their decisions. And they like to move on quickly. And sometimes it's not the most popular decision that the Vegas Golden Knights make. And man, I'm a little interested in this idea of Tocchet going to Vegas. Again, that's where he lives in the offseason. Tocchet coaching the Vegas Golden Knights, like, that would really be something.
It would be. Now, again, you have to take it with a grain of salt, just in the sense that even though I brought up that Vegas is ruthless with firings and moving on from people in their organization, Bruce Cassidy is still a terrific head coach. And in my opinion, if I was Vegas, even if you get knocked out in the first round for a second consecutive year, I wouldn't make that change. But yeah, if it somehow happens, that would be an interesting potential fit with Tocchet in Vegas. Now, Rick's in an interesting spot, and one thing that I'd be really curious to know from his perspective is how much of a priority is it to coach for next season specifically? Because we know that, yeah, if he's there are a lot of vacancies. If he wants to coach next year, he'll have a head coaching job. But how particular is he going to be about fit and wanting to go to the type of team and roster where he can legitimately contend for a Stanley Cup? Because that's the one thing that's missing when you look at a lot of the head coaching vacancies with teams like Seattle, Chicago, Boston, Philly, Pittsburgh. these aren't organizations that are going to be contending for a Stanley Cup anytime soon. So does Tocchet, knowing that he can always go back to TNT, look at this as an opportunity to take a breather, reset, and when the perfect opportunity strikes, whenever that is, whether that's this summer, whether that's mid-season next year, or even at the end of next season, is he going to be ultra selective about where he wants to go?
It's very interesting, and I've had that thought too. Is it going to be a take a year off thing? Can be interesting. Can be interesting to see how it goes. We got a super chat here. This one from Web.3, regular listener of the show. He said, Manny for coach, he would breathe life. I know everybody's going to say first year coach. I really like Manny Malhotra. And it's not just because he came on Canucks Convo. I see people in the chat saying that already, that, he came on Canucks Convo, so of course you want him. No, I really liked his interview on Canucks Convo, but I also thought that he did a really good job of just resetting his team after that unlikely loss to the Tucson Roadrunners. Like, that Abbotsford Canucks team has composure, and I think it starts with him. No shot at Jeremy Colleton or whoever else has coached the Abbotsford Canucks, but that team has a lot of composure. I think the proof's in the pudding of all the guys that are coming up. And again, we're not talking about guys in the AHL that are coming up and are going to be surefire, can't miss, top 6 guys, but like, you've got a lot of solid bottom 6 NHLers coming out of Abbotsford right now, and the guys who have higher ceilings, they're also playing well. Like, you're seeing Jonathan Lecker-Mackey, who obviously had that oral surgery or oral procedure that he made him miss Game 3 against Tucson, but like, he had a great season in the AHL under Manny. So I don't even want to say I'm biased. I really like Manny Malhotra. I think he'd be a great coach. I don't know, like, if you put Peter Laviolette in front of me and Manny Malhotra, I'm going with Manny Malhotra. I don't think that's a hot take. I don't care that Manny's had 1 year compared to Laviolette's, like, I don't know, 23 or whatever it's been. Give me Manny every day of the week.
Yeah, in a perfect world, there would be more experienced coaches that you look at and go, oh, that guy would be a perfect fit here. But in the absence of that, Manny has to be a legit contender in consideration for the head coaching vacancy. He's done a terrific job in Abbotsford, especially down the stretch after the main club was dealing with so many injuries, and the big club was constantly shuttling players up from Abbotsford. Abby had a bit of a depleted roster there, and this is also a younger team compared to years past. When Rutherford first took over in their first season, they targeted a lot of veterans on one-way contracts. They spent a lot on that farm team down there, so you expected them to have success. Whereas now, it is largely driven by younger players, and I'd argue they've squeezed the absolute most out of that roster that they can to this point. So Manny's doing a terrific job. I also think it's interesting that because he's already been an assistant here, Quinn Hughes had 1 season under him. Of course, Manny wasn't necessarily working with Quinn specifically very closely, but Quinn and Elias Pettersson as well will have had experience knowing what Manny is about, how prepared he is, what his demeanor is, his personality. And I think that's interesting from the sense that, like, in nailing this next head coach hire, you need Quinn Hughes bought in, right? We knew that based off his previous comments, not just in Ian McIntyre's article, but I believe during one of his walk-off interviews on Prime, that he believes in this coaching staff and felt optimistic that they could bounce back as a playoff team next year. The biggest priority with this next head coach hire has to be that Quinn Hughes buys in and believes, because that's going to set the tone for the rest of the team. That's where, if your management right now and you're heavily considering Manny or really any head coach hire, you should go to Quinn and sort of say, like, hey, what do you think about this idea? And this is where I like the fact that Quinn will have had firsthand experience with Manny, even if it was back in his rookie season.
I love that. That's a really, really good point as well. Okay, let's get to anyone else. Anyone else is brought to you by the Vancouver Canadians, who are back at home this week. It starts tonight, Tuesday, April 29th, for a homestand versus the Hillsborough Hops. Check out the Nooner at the Nat on Friday, May 2nd. A great excuse to get the weekend started a bit early. Make sure you check out the White Spot Family Fun Sunday on May 4th, where kids get to run the bases post-game. And hey, it's May the 4th. May the 4th be with you. It's Star Wars Day at the Nat. For tickets, call 604-872-5232 or check out CanadiansBaseball.com. Okay. We've got a lot in the chat right now. So much that technical producer Jacob Lazar hasn't even been able to put anything in our private chat here. So I'm scrolling through the chat. Someone wants to bring Alain Vigneault out of retirement to get him to come coach the Canucks. I think he's done coaching. I think he's probably at the point where he doesn't want to make a comeback in the NHL. So this one was an interesting one. Where'd it go? I lost it. Yeah, Adam Foote. Okay, Adam Foote. Someone pointed this out to me. Rick Tocchet is reporting that Adam Foote's contract is up and that he has permission to talk with other teams. And this is something PJ said, I think, before you joined, Harm, is like, I said it off top. Rick Tocchet loves Adam Foote so much. Wherever Tocchet goes, Adam Foote's going to. Is that fair to say?
100%. I mean, I don't think Foote would have immediately jumped into an assistant head coaching role given his limited coaching experience before that, at least at the NHL level, if it wasn't for how close of a relationship he had with Tocchet. That was clearly, from Tocchet's perspective, I'm close with this guy. I believe in his knowledge. I believe in his expertise, and he'll learn on the fly. So that was really Tocchet sort of taking a chance on Foote. I think he was kind of fast-tracked into that role, and clearly he's developed as an assistant coach to the point where he is highly regarded, and because of that, Foote's definitely going to be loyal to Tocchet and wherever he goes, I would imagine.
Okay, this one was from, man, it is moving so fast. This one was from Dr. Haas, regular listener to the show. He said, do we keep Petey and test how he does with the new coach? Harman, does this change the official Canucks conversation game plan for the Canucks of keep Petey, go all in this offseason, figure out what you can do, because if you're not good and Quinn leaves, none of it matters anyways, and you're going to be bad, you're going to be cooked. Extend Demko, all this stuff that we've been talking about in recent weeks. Does today's news change any of that for you? Are you still on team keep Petey? Because what the hell?
I mean, you have to, I think. If you trade Petey for pennies on the dollar this offseason, I just don't see a path where you're going to have enough offensive firepower up front to do any sort of damage next season. So as much as I have some doubts and some reservations and some level of concern, frankly, around Pettersson and whether he's truly a forward that you can win with as far as being the centerpiece of your entire forward group, you have to roll the dice on him. And I don't think Tocchet leaving changes that. It's not as if Tocchet was a Petey whisperer that he could unlock the best version of him that nobody else could.
People in chat are throwing around names. Joel Quenneville is interviewing for the Anaheim Ducks job, obviously. Again, Mike Sullivan's getting a lot of love in the chat, which I understand, but folks, like, it seems like a bit of a long shot for Mike Sullivan to end up in Vancouver, even if there is that connection with Rutherford. And I don't know, like, I really don't know who I'd like to see if it was an outside hire. We've talked about it. The names aren't very great. Hell, like, I'm not looking at Joel Quenneville being like, he's the answer. Like, no, definitely not. But I don't know. Because here's the thing. When we're talking about coaches, we always talk about like, oh, okay, well, like, the coach isn't the problem with this team. So I look at that and I say, okay, well, if the coach isn't the problem, what coach is going to want to come here? Where the coach isn't the problem and the team doesn't play great. It's like, what are we doing?
Yeah, one name. What do you think of Jay Woodcroft? Again, if we're going down veterans, like we know Manny's going to be candidate, but among other veterans, I don't hate Woodcroft, right? I know that's a bar that I don't hate this guy as a head coach, but you look at where the Oilers were at when Dave Tippett was fired. The Oilers were a team that could make the playoffs, and they weren't even close to being contenders, right? Yeah. Woodcroft took over midseason. They instantly went on a heater, the same way the Oilers instantly went on a heater when Woodcroft got fired and Knobloch got hired. And he instantly took them from a position where it looked like the Oilers might miss the playoffs in 2021, 2022 to taking them to the Western Conference Final. And with a roster that honestly wasn't even that deep. The following year they lost to Vegas in the second round, but Vegas won the Stanley Cup, so there's not really there's not really a whole lot to complain about that. And then the following season, they obviously got to that awful start and he got fired. But how much of that was on bad goaltending and bad shooting percentage luck? So overall, I think Woodcroft was fine with the Oilers, considering where they were when he took them over, as far as being maybe not even making the playoffs in his first season. He guided them to Western Conference Final, had another solid season, and then a brutal 6 to 8 week stretch cost him that job in Edmonton. If you're looking at some of these experience, already been a head coach at the NHL level, I don't love a lot of the options, but Woodcroft would be one of the names that I would be at least thinking about.
Satyar Shah also confirming the report as well from Rick Tocchet, reporting the same thing, that they offered Tocchet the money that he was looking for and he still left, which I think makes it worse, right? If money wasn't an issue, that makes it a lot worse. The Tocchet was like, ooh, that is a lot of money, but I really don't want to be here because of this. And it'll be interesting to see what Rick Tocchet says when he eventually speaks. But yeah, would have made him one of the top paid coaches in the league. Cam Robinson also reporting that as well. It's getting out there to everybody that this would have been a big contract for Rick Tocchet. I don't know. We're gonna have lots of time to sit and talk about who the replacement is going to be. I did text Bag Milk. Maybe we'll have him on the show to just give us the Jay Woodcroft report, what he thinks of Jay Woodcroft, but it's interesting. It's an interesting thing that's going on right now. Jim Rutherford's going to speak in about 10 minutes time. We're going to have coverage of it over on CanucksArmy.com. And of course, we will be back tomorrow to break it all down. You never know what you're going to get at a Jim Rutherford press conference. And I'm thinking he's going to have some stuff to say today. So we'll close it out there, but I'll get to our Bet365 bet of the day before I do that. Harman, did you have anything else you wanted to say? I wanted to get this one question in. Okay.
Yeah.
This one. Shiv AU said, Canucks fans wanting to trade Petey just to watch a 9.5 times 8 years Sam Bennett score 61 points and turn 30. That's a good comment. I like that. That's funny. Okay, Bet365 bet of the day. I'm all in on the Oil. You heard it yesterday. I jumped on the bandwagon. Once coached by the great Jay Woodcroft, the Edmonton Oilers are taking on the LA Kings tonight, and I am taking the Oilers money line. You can get that at plus 105 over on Bet365. And if you want to get in on the action for the playoffs, Bet365's got you covered. From game props, player props, totals, and the money line, you can even bet on futures like series winners, conference champions, the Stanley Cup champions, and much, much more. Whatever your bet is, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app and get in on the game. An official partner of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Must be 90 plus to play. If you choose to play, please play responsibly. All right, folks, over 400 of you joined us today. We really appreciate it. And of course, a lot more are going to be listening on the podcast as well. If you're new, make sure you hit subscribe on the podcast, on the YouTube channel. Fill out our Family Feud survey. That should get done in a day. We play Family Feud every Thursday here on Canucks Convo. But we will wrap it up.
Please fill out the survey. We're really short on responses.
Yeah, fill out the survey. There you go. Fill out the survey. It's in the description, episode description. Go fill out our Family Feud survey. We need your voice to be heard. But in the meantime, we will wrap it up there. For my co-host, Harman Dayal, and our technical producer, Jacob Lazar, my name is Dave Quadrelli. Thanks so much for the episode of Canucks Conversation. Canucks Conversation is live Monday through Friday, every weekday at 2 p.m. over on the Canucks Army YouTube channel. Make sure you like, subscribe, and interact in the YouTube live chat every day with us, folks.